Hello there, gamers, and welcome to another edition of Random News of Gaming, the monthly gaming news show that gives you late news in the most lazy way possible but doesn't waste your time by stretching single clickbait stories into as many perfectly cut YouTube ad-maximizing vids as possible. Shots fired! Kind of ironic for me to say this though, since this will be the first RNG where I split the video in two, because it's going to make it easier for me to get these videos out on time, I think. And also, this way you can pick and choose what you want to see. If all you care about is the news and drama, you're in the right place. If all you care about are the new releases that you may not have heard about, then check out the next video that should be up right alongside this one. Link will be in the description. Anyway, hope you all had a great April seething about the Switch 2 the entire time, because we're going to do more of it here. Really, I'm just going to quickly round up all the information you need to know. First, and most prominently, the Switch 2 pre-orders were meant to go live on April 9th, but due to the president's tariff policies, that had to be delayed, until it was announced that those tariffs would be delayed. Then the date moved to the 24th. So, what happened once pre-orders went live? Well, turns out, to nobody's surprise, I hope, that people went out in droves to try and secure a pre-order, despite all the protests that happened throughout the month.
Well, imagine my shock.
In fact, in Japan alone, they reported 2.2 million pre-orders, which far exceeded the amount they would have available at launch. As for the rest of the world, we don't have concrete numbers just yet, unless I missed it. But there were tons of people talking and complaining about not being able to get into the pre-order queues of whatever site they tried to get it from because it was a laggy disaster. I'm so glad I've wisened up and don't waste my time with crap like this anymore. Again, if you are not a content creator, you don't really stand to gain anything by getting one at launch, so don't waste your precious time. But if you were in the camp saying the price was too high or you can't currently afford it, have no fear, Nintendo has you covered. In an interview, Doug Bowser said, "Hey, don't worry, we'll be keeping Nintendo Switch 1 active for quite a while." Sound familiar to you?
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message if you don't, don't like it?
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device. I mean, seriously, when I read the blogs and thought about who's really the most impacted, there was a person who said, "Hey, I'm on a nuclear sub."
Right.
And I don't even know what it means to be on a nuclear sub, but I've got to imagine that it's not easy to get an internet connection.
Yeah, a lot of people are comparing the Switch 2 to the Xbox One launch disaster now that he said this, and others are comparing it to the PS3 launch disaster because of the blatant price hikes on the games. But considering how sold out it is now, I doubt it will be that much of a mess. There's a lot of other problems people are having with the Switch 2, including the new wireless GameCube controller, which has a disclaimer on it saying it only works with Nintendo Switch Online GameCube games, and that's it. Sounds absurd and like a waste of money, but this one has a simple solution. Wait. The controller has a ZL button, which means they will most likely make this compatible with other stuff in the future, which I've heard that's what they did with previous classic controllers as well. This one will probably be the same, but like I said, just wait, just in case. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are being resold to us on the Switch 2 for full price, despite being older games. And not only that, they are going to sell you the DLC for Breath of the Wild rather than including it with the upgraded version. You know, like most companies do with re-releases and Game of the Year editions like this. So that sucks, though if you already bought the DLC, that may unlock it for you automatically, but it still should be included with the base game in my opinion. Remember, some games on the Switch 2 will be using game key cards, which are cartridges that don't even have the game on it, and you have to download the game once you put it into your Switch 2. These are clearly inferior to actual physical games, which will still be a thing, but these key cards are an alternative to having a download code in a box we saw a lot of last gen. Well, it turns out many third-party companies aren't seeing it that way, and are opting to use key cards instead of regular physical games. Even some games that are already on the Switch 1 as normal physical games, for example, the Suikoden remasters. What the fuck, Konami? I thought you were on your redemption arc, but I guess not. So far, the only third-party game we've heard of using full physical carts is Cyberpunk 2077 of all things. So I would normally say, hey, if you got a Switch 2, this one is a safe buy, but Well, given the Switch 2's specs are comparable to the 8th gen consoles, and we all know how Cyberpunk launched on those things, you're better off waiting on this one too. As for the keycards, it seems like these will not be worth keeping or collecting at all. But while the Switch 2 services are active, you should be able to trade them freely. So my suggestion is, if you still want to play these games on the Switch 2, play them, have fun, get as much out of them as you can. Then when you're done, sell them immediately. They will not retain value like regular physical games for obvious reasons. So at least if you do this, you may only be like $10 out due to shipping or tax or whatever, rather than the full price. Some might say, oh, might as well just buy digital instead, but then if you do that, you have no recourse. Keep in mind also, the Switch 2 doesn't even have a terabyte of storage, so you'll have to shell out even more money for a storage upgrade if you plan on going digital, which I never recommend for consoles in general anyway. If you want to keep track of what's playable and what's not out of the box, I recommend following Does It Play on X or wherever else they are, and check out their website. They test what can and can't be played without an internet connection, and their site has a database of everything they've covered. So yeah, again, like I said in the last video, if you're skeptical about the Switch 2 or think the price doesn't match the actual value, just wait. You stand to lose nothing if you wait. If you wait, you win. I don't think anything will change over time given how much the Switch 2 sold out in spite of all the complaints, so this is going to have to be something we deal with. Maybe buy less games on console and check out some Steam or GOG sales instead, or hell, Game Pass. Do whatever works for you, and don't be a corporate slave, like certain individuals who'll be in the upcoming Worst Take of the Month. So, how are the other two companies reacting to this? Surely this would encourage a bit of competition, right? Well, PlayStation is raising their prices again, because of course they are. I guess the only thing PlayStation and Nintendo will be competing on is who will take the crown as the Apple of gaming. Keep in mind this is not affecting the US. Yet. But pretty much every other country around the world will see a price hike. Too bad that price hike doesn't include any new games. One game, I don't know why. As for Xbox, well, they're pretty much just doing what they've been doing and releasing the occasional game on Game Pass, which, and I hate to admit it because Xbox is by far my least favorite, makes Xbox the most affordable console ecosystem on the market now. And it's really no contest. Even if you get the Series X, a $500 console, you can get by for a long time playing all sorts of games just with Game Pass, as opposed to buying a bunch of games for the other systems. Obviously, the caveat is that once you stop paying for it, you can't play those games anymore, but it's really the most affordable option now. Or, if you already have a PC, you can access Game Pass for even cheaper. But there was another thing Xbox did in April that, well, it should have been a surprise, but it really wasn't. They dropped the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster for $50. An affordable remake with the Shivering Isles DLC included that keeps the original experience of Oblivion intact while improving on a few things. And people love it. Except for the fact that fucking horse armor is a separate DLC again. God damn it, Todd.
Who's laughing now?
And the whole body type replacing gender thing that always goes viral whenever a popular game does it. Stop doing this. It serves nobody. But aside from that, they really needed to do this a while ago, considering Elder Scrolls 6 is nowhere in sight. Though this would be the perfect opportunity to unveil it this June, just saying. Another interesting thing about this remaster's release is that there is a big mod project called Sky Oblivion that is allegedly releasing in the near future. For obvious reasons, this kind of thing could interfere with the success of the Oblivion remaster. And you'd expect them to get a cease and desist or something like that, right? Well, no, because the Elder Scrolls team is a bit more self-aware than most companies. They decided to celebrate the mod's existence by gifting free codes for the Oblivion remaster to all of Sky Oblivion's modding team. Based. Honestly, I can't imagine many other big companies doing something like this. A weird thing about the Oblivion remaster's launch is the timing. Bethesda is owned by Microsoft, so many people commonly associate their games with Xbox. Not me though, I associate them with PC like any true PC master racer should. Just saying. Another game people associate with Xbox due to their marketing is the JRPG-style game Expedition 33, which launched 2 days after the Oblivion remaster, including on Game Pass. Now, you probably already know that JRPGs, or just Japanese games in general, are something Xbox is not known for, like, at all. So in a way, having these two games launched so close together seems counterproductive, doesn't it? People were worried that Oblivion might cut into Expedition 33's numbers, but it turns out that didn't happen, or not to a significant degree, because it sold 1 million copies in just a few days. So congrats to them making their first game a huge success. From what I hear, it deserves it, and I want to play it. But that will have to wait. All you have to do is make a good-looking, good game, and people will buy it. And this game is proof of that. So, another thing that came out last month that really paints an interesting picture when you put it up against some of the previous stories I've talked about. According to a report from Newzoo, PC gaming actually gained more players than consoles in 2024. Now, is this a reaction to the consoles getting more expensive over time, or something else? It should be noted that 2024 was a late year in the generation for all three console makers. The PS5 and Xbox were 4 years old, and the Switch was 7. You don't expect the numbers to go up as high in a year like that, but PC gaming doesn't have these sort of ups and downs like the consoles do when they launch and age. So don't take it as a sign that PC is getting a crazy influx of disgruntled console players or anything. Most people don't want to deal with the hassles PC gaming has, which are pretty overblown if you ask me, but hey, if people are getting priced out of the console gaming in the new generations, I wouldn't be surprised if PC gaming gets a surge of new players who are willing to put up with the perceived hassles. Generally, one of the advantages of PC gaming is that the games you have available to buy are less curated, meaning there aren't as many middlemen in the way of getting what you want uncensored, which also means there will be content available that you or I may find disturbing or morally reprehensible. Case in point, a game that came out on Steam in March called No Mercy. And based on the image, you can probably tell what kind of content is in this game. Although, calling it a game is being generous. It's more like one of those interactive visual stories, kind of like a visual novel. And it's porn. Steam does allow a lot of porn on their storefront, but they have a history of having very inconsistent standards on what is allowed and what isn't, which makes this story weird. You would think that this would be one of those that Steam bans, but no. It was up for sale for quite a while before it was taken down by the developers themselves, not Steam. But there was a viral cancel campaign against the game led by corporate Karen activists called Collective Shout, who still think violent video game content causes violence in real life.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Do we really need to go over this shit again? No Mercy is not the first game of its kind, it won't be the last, and given the nature of the internet, I bet you all of these games are still accessible in some way or another, including No Mercy, which is still easily available on itch.io. Hey, Future Chow here. Found out that the game was also banned on itch.io while editing. So yeah, the only way to get it now is through Zerat Games Subscribestar. We'll see how long that lasts though. Future Chow out. All you've done is made the game more infamous than it ever would have been if it was just ignored. The only winner in this situation is the developer, Zerat Games. They've probably made more money than they ever could have expected. The Streisand effect is real, just saying. I, like most people, had never even heard of No Mercy until this controversy was blown out of proportion by these Karen activists. And even if I did, it wouldn't make it into my release list since it's barely a game. But still, it shouldn't be banned. You help no one by banning this game. Not to mention, a lot of people are lying about the game or spreading misinformation about its content in order to get it banned, so here's a wild idea. Play it. If you think a piece of media should be banned, experience the entire thing for yourself, before attempting to exert your authority over a piece of media that you're not an authority on. It would go a long way in making you look less like retarded slacktivist clowns. I got a few more quick stories to wrap up the news, starting with Ubisoft. Yeah, I don't want to drag on this segment again. I'm tired of talking about this shitty company that needs to die. But there was an update in their lawsuit for bricking the crew, making it unplayable for anyone who bought it. In that case, Ubisoft makes the argument explicitly, you don't own your games. which gives them the justification to be able to revoke access at any point for any reason. That's the whole point of an all-digital game marketplace for the corporations. They have full control and can revoke access and resell you the same games later on and make even more money. The all-digital future is a bad thing. Not only that, it's being alleged that Ubisoft is engaging in non-disclosed data collection in single-player games. A data protection agency in Austria made the claim, and if found to be true, Ubisoft could be fined 92 million euros. Just stop buying Ubisoft games. Let them die. They deserve it. Guess what? There were layoffs last month.
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
EA and Devolver Digital laid off a large amount of their workforce. Don't have much to add here. Happens every month at this point. And since in the past I have praised games like No Man's Sky for releasing free content updates rather than paid DLC, I want to do the same for Vampire Survivors, which released a collaboration update with Saga Emerald Beyond. Yeah, weird isn't it? A collaboration with a Squeenix property, and it's free. Probably because Saga Emerald Beyond released with a whimper last year, just saying. So go check that out if you like the game and haven't yet. Now, time for last month in localization.
Apply the sacred ointment, Popo.
So, another update on the Trails in the Sky remake. Gung Ho Entertainment, the new publisher of the international versions, announced that they'll be pretty much redoing the English script, and according to them, making it more faithful to the original Japanese text. In contrast to the old Xseed release, which took many creative liberties with the localization, making certain characters read quite differently to their intended counterparts in Japan. I will give Xseed some credit though, they were definitely better writers than other localizers that we talk about frequently, but speaking of Xseed, they are under criticism for doing it again, as they released the localized version of 100-line Last Defense Academy, and, well, this article was the only one I could find on it, and as you can see by the title, they probably have some ulterior motives. But if you want to see what people are complaining about, just check the Steam discussions page. From what I've read, it's pretty bad, and not accurate to the source material at all. We also have a similar situation from last month when we talked about Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark being cancelled on Xbox. Another game was cancelled for release on Xbox, a port of some old Japanese games called Steam Heart's Saturn Tribute. Apparently the game has some scenes that are too spicy for Xbox for whatever reason. But hold up. That doesn't mean you should just hop on the game on another platform either, because the developer City Connection admitted that some of the content was altered for all platforms. I guess the censorship just wasn't enough for modern Puritan Xbox. Now, what's probably happening here is they had to alter the content for console platforms, otherwise they wouldn't be able to release it at all, but it still sucks. No news of a decensor patch for the PC versions yet either. And on the other hand, we have another English fan patch released, this time for Sakura Wars 2, Thou Shalt Not Die. So if you ever wanted to play that, go check it out. That wraps up the news, so now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the worst take of the month. And, to no one's surprise, there was a metric buttload to choose from. With the Switch 2 and all the endless amount of shills out there, which includes many of the people who were originally complaining about it, trying to pick just one is a challenge to say the least. So why don't we go over several of them in a little top list in the middle of this video, because why not? Starting with Digital Foundry literally running an ad for Switch 2 out of nowhere when there's supposed to be a tech channel that compares things objectively. Sungrand Studios crashing out over people being negative about the Switch 2 and ruining his reputation and any goodwill he gained from his recent videos. Although this may be a work, I'm not entirely convinced. Griffin Gaming calling everyone brokies for not liking the Switch prices across multiple streams. Typical Griffin. Why I sold my Steam Deck OLED for the Nintendo Switch 2 by Player Essence. Going on about buying a Steam Deck and never using it, and then selling it for a console that doesn't even exist yet to prop up Nintendo over Steam for no good reason, other than his own tech illiteracy. Nicola not understanding how digital game ownership works on console in comparison to PC, and trying to go after Mutahar over it. Nicola, you're a pony. What are you even doing here? M saying, wait, why are there PlayStation fanboys on here? Are you fucking kidding me? It was Nintendo fanboys' time to shine, and here we are talking about PlayStation fanboys all of a sudden instead. Why? Why the fuck are you ponies like this? You guys have the worst, most horrendous takes on video games I've ever fucking seen. And you wonder why you're always being featured in fanboy compilation content.
Just stop!
Anyway, he makes the claim that it's not okay when Nintendo charges $80 because it's Nintendo doing it. Basically, it's only okay when PlayStation does it. Maybe if you got more games on your platform that you wanted, you wouldn't be able to justify paying an insane price for your games.
One game, I don't know why.
Nintendo Switch 2 hate needs to stop. You paid the same for Mario Kart 8 on Switch 1 by Switch Force. A video where he uses the most basic, low-level understanding of inflation. You know, something we have no power over, without taking into account actual spending power of the dollar, or how much actual spending money the typical person or household has, or how people view the value of the dollar regardless of the current inflation number, or how the economy is in the fucking trash right now. I'm just done with all this negativity by Nintendo Prime, where he whines and complains that people are being negative because he just wants to be excited, bro.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next products.
Harmon Smith being Harmon Smith. If you know, I don't need to explain why he's on here.
It's over.
This tweet by Tails Guy. Yeah. Moving on. Jay Barry and Porto Rock. Oh, are you fucking kidding me?
If these games were exclusive, Xbox would be kicking PlayStation ass in 2025 right now. Bring back exclusive games on Xbox. PlayStation needs the competition. # respect gaming.
That's not a lie. If Microsoft would have remained with the console-centric strength, Bethesda purchase would be showing its benefits. But Microsoft went with a third-party-centric approach, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, this is the last one on the list, and it doesn't even have anything to do with the Switch 2. When I saw this, I couldn't believe what I was reading. You guys are so dedicated and obsessed with your little console war that you are willing to have less games on your platform as some roundabout justification for creating more competition from Xbox, which would therefore make PlayStation do better. You guys are already wasting time on Twitter all day instead of enjoying games on your platform, and you're here advocating for having less. Again. Why are fanboys like this? I don't get it. Obligatory.
One game, I don't know why.
Well, I'm glad that's over. Hope you enjoyed
Future
it.
Chow here.
What?
You know what? Stop playing dumb.
No. Fuck this. I'm not talking about this clown. I already went through a buttload of horrendous takes. I'm not going to talk about this retarded clout goblin. Fuck off. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. I didn't, but hey, if you found it entertaining, then it was worth it. Don't forget to check out part 2, where I'll go over all the games that came out in April, and should be up right now. So go check that out if you're interested. Link in the description, and maybe the comments. If not, don't forget to leave a comment on what you think of any of these dumpster fires we talked about today. And tickle that like button sensually. Or the dislike button if you plan to shove the Switch 2, dock and all, up your booty hole while screaming Doug Bowser's name. Share the video around to anyone who may find it interesting, or anyone who's tired of the YouTube clickbait slop news cycle. My clickbait slop is better anyway, just saying. Don't forget to check out my frequent unscheduled streams or my other content such as my top 10s and other stuff. Also, I'll be making a review-ish video for Kai no Kiseki or Trails Beyond the Horizon soon, as well as my top 10 favorite video game music covers. So prepare yourselves for that. You can also find my Steam Curator that tracks all the games I talk about in this series, as well as any games on Steam that are featured on this channel. Stalk me on the X-Twitter where I post negative quantities of tweets. Join my Discord to stalk me or just get alerts for when I upload, or catch my video content on Rumble or Odyssey. And as always with this inflated Sonic fan art of an industry, have high standards, low expectations.